To truly grasp the scale of the deception, we must first travel back in time and across oceans to the original homes of these plants. The palm family is ancient and diverse, comprising over 2,600 species, from the desert-dwelling date palms to the subterranean Laodicea maldivian, the monstrous double coconut. The tall, feathery silhouette we ubiquitously associate with the tropics, however, is overwhelmingly that of the Cocos nucifera, the coconut palm. Its story is a story of human migration and colonial ambition, originating in the maritime jungles of Southeast Asia and Melanesia. The coconut is a master of oceanic dispersal. Its fibrous husk allows it to float for months across vast distances, germinating on distant shores. This natural voyager was co-opted by ancient Austronesian explorers who carried it intentionally in their outrigger canoes as a tree of life, providing water, food, fiber, and shelter on every new island they settled. For millennia, it existed in a balanced polyculture system, woven into the fabric of coastal communities from the Philippines to Madagascar. The first seismic shift came with the age of European colonialism. European traders and colonists, recognizing its immense utility for provisioning ships with fresh water and durable fiber for rigging, systematically planted it along every trade route, from the Caribbean to West Africa. This was the first wave of global homogenization, turning a culturally significant native species into a globalized commodity. The second, and far more devastating, wave began in the late 19th and early 20th centuries with the birth of the modern tourist industry. As steamships and later jets made tropical travel accessible, a marketable image of paradise was required. The coconut palm, with its graceful, unmistakable shape, became the perfect logo. It was exotic yet benign, suggesting leisure, abundance, and an untouched Eden. This imagery was not organic. It was crafted by advertising agencies, hotel conglomerates, and film studios. They needed a clean, recognizable symbol in the complex, tangled reality of a biodiverse tropical coastline with its messy mangroves, thorny shoreline shrubs, and dense rainforests was not sellable. So the coconut palm was planted by the millions in a literal and figurative campaign to overwrite nature itself. To create the perfect beach, developers didn't just add palms, they subtracted everything else. This process required the systematic clearing of native coastal ecosystems. The most catastrophic victim was the mangrove forest. Mangroves are the true guardians of the tropics complex, stilt-rooted trees that stabilize coastlines, filter pollutants, and serve as nurseries for over 75% of all tropical commercial fish species. A single hectare of mangrove can sequester up to 4 times more carbon than an equivalent area of rainforest. Yet, because they were seen as swampy, dirty, and full of mosquitoes, they were bulldozed, dredged, and poisoned to make way for the clean, white sand beaches fringed with orderly rows of coconuts. The data is horrifying. Global mangrove cover has declined by over 35% in the last 50 years, with coastal tourism and aquaculture being primary drivers. The replacement is a biological desert. A monoculture of coconut palms supports a fraction of the wildlife. Insect biodiversity plummets. Bird species that depend on dense canopy cover disappear. The soil, once held fast by a mat of mangrove roots, becomes prone to erosion. When the next hurricane or typhoon hits, intensified by the very climate change, the mangroves helped mitigate these engineered coastlines are the first to vanish, their sand washed away, their iconic palms toppled. The palm tree, in this context, is not a part of the ecosystem. It is a green flag planted on a site of ecological ruin, a picturesque placeholder for an entire world we race to sell a week's vacation. This is the foundational layer of the great palm tree. Deception. We have accepted a corporate logo as a natural truth. And in doing so, We have financed the destruction of the very authentic natural beauty it was meant to symbolize. We fly thousands of miles to relax under a tree that was planted to attract us, on a beach that was created for us, all while believing we are experiencing untouched nature. This cognitive dissonance is the engine of a multi-trillion-dollar industry. Before we dive even deeper into the economic and climatic domino effects this has triggered, I need you to do something right now. Look at your screen. If this revelation, the universal symbol of paradise, is actually a symbol of ecological replacement, has sparked even a single question in your mind, then you are already part of the solution. The single most powerful thing you can do at this moment is to subscribe to this channel. Why? Because in the next section, we're going to connect this beachside imagery to the product in your pantry. And the link is more direct and more shocking than you can imagine. Every subscription tells the YouTube algorithm that content like this deeply researched, challenging, and focused on systemic truth matters. It pushes this video beyond the screen and into the recommendations of people who are still unaware. So hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell. This story is only getting more intense, and I don't want you to miss a single piece of the puzzle. Your attention is the most valuable currency in changing this narrative. Now let's pivot from the coastline to the supermarket aisle, because the same genus of plants that gave us the coconut palm has unleashed a far more pervasive and devastating sibling, the oil palm Eales. If the coconut palm is the smiling face of ecological displacement for tourism, the oil palm is its industrial, globe-conquering twin. Our journey into this realm begins with a simple, terrifying number: 70 million metric tons. That is the volume of palm oil produced globally every single year. It is in roughly half of all packaged products on supermarket shelves, from your shampoo and lipstick to your instant noodles, margarine, and biodiesel fuel. Its dominance is not an accident of nature, but a result of ruthless agricultural efficiency. No other vegetable oil crop can compete with its yield per hectare. It produces up to 10 times more oil than soybeans and requires significantly less land than rapeseed or sunflower. This efficiency, however, is a double-edged sword that has cleaved through the heart of the planet's most vital ecosystems. To understand the true cost, we must follow the supply chain back to its source, primarily to Indonesia and Malaysia, which together account for over 85% of global production. The expansion of oil palm plantations is the leading driver of deforestation in these regions. The method is brutally systematic. Ancient, biodiverse rainforests, often on carbon-rich peatland soil, are clear-cut and burned. These haze events create transboundary air pollution so severe it has shut down schools and hospitals across Southeast Asia. The data from Global Forest Watch is unequivocal. Millions of hectares of primary forest, habitat for critically endangered species like the orangutan, the Sumatran tiger, and the pygmy elephant, have been converted into endless, sterile rows of oil palm. The term plantation sounds almost pastoral, but in reality, it is a green desert. The complex, multi-layered canopy of a rainforest, which can host tens of thousands of species, is replaced by a single-species monoculture with a canopy so sparse it barely shades the ground. Soil health degrades rapidly under this system, requiring heavy applications of synthetic fertilizers and pesticides, which then leach into waterways, creating dead zones. The social cost is equally profound. Investigations by NGOs like Amnesty International have repeatedly documented labor abuses, including child labor, forced labor, and the seizure of indigenous lands without free, prior, and informed consent. Communities that have sustainably managed their forest homes for generations are dispossessed, their livelihoods and cultural heritage obliterated for a global commodity chain. Now, here is where the deception deepens, mirroring the tourism industry's greenwashing. In response to consumer pressure, the industry created the Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil, RSP, a certification scheme meant to guarantee environmentally and socially responsible production. But numerous studies and undercover investigations have shown that RSPO certification is plagued with failures. Sustainable palm oil plantations are often found to be built on recently deforested land through a system of shadow companies and loopholes. The certification has been called a fig leaf that allows major Western corporations to continue using palm oil while claiming sustainability credentials. This creates a dangerous illusion for conscious consumers. You might buy a product with an RSPO label, believing you are making an ethical choice, while the complex, opaque reality of the supply chain means your purchase could still be funding deforestation and human rights abuses. The palm oil dilemma presents us with a near impossible paradox. Boycotting it entirely could simply shift demand to other, less efficient oil crops, potentially causing even more deforestation as more land is needed to produce the same volume. Yet, supporting the current sustainable model often perpetuates the problem under a new name. This is the second layer of the great palm tree deception. We are trapped in a system where a hyper-efficient, utterly ubiquitous commodity has externalized its true cost onto the world's most vulnerable ecosystems and people. And the purported solutions are often part of the smokescreen. The palm tree, in this industrial form, is no longer just a plant. It is a geometric pattern of profit, a crop that has reshaped continents to fit the logic of a globalized market, rendering the incredible complexity of a rainforest into a simple, profitable unit of oil. The impact of our palm obsession extends beyond visible landscapes and into the very chemistry of our atmosphere, locking us into a vicious climate feedback loop with global consequences. This is where the data becomes both stark and inescapable. Tropical rainforests, and crucially, the peatlands they often grow on, are the planet's most powerful terrestrial carbon sinks. A hectare of pristine lowland rainforest in Borneo can store between 150 and 250 metric tons of carbon in its living biomass. The underlying peat soils, formed over millennia from partially decomposed plant matter in waterlogged conditions, are carbon bombs. They can store up to 6,000 metric tons of carbon per hectare. That's more carbon than an equivalent area of the Amazon rainforest holds above ground. When a company clears land for a palm oil plantation, the process is catastrophic for the stored carbon. First, the forest is felled, releasing the carbon stored in the trees. Then, to prepare the land, the waterlogged peat is drained via canals. Once exposed to air, the peat undergoes rapid oxidation, slowly releasing its stored carbon as carbon dioxide over years and decades. Worse, during dry seasons, the dried peat becomes highly flammable. The intentional or accidental fires used for land clearing can ignite these peat deposits, creating infernos that burn underground for months, releasing staggering amounts of CO2, along with toxic particulate matter and methane, and even more potent greenhouse gas. The numbers are staggering. During the catastrophic 2015 fire season in Indonesia, largely driven by palm and pulpwood plantation expansion, daily emissions from the fires exceeded the total daily emissions of the entire United States economy. This single-sector activity in one region can, at its peak, become a top global emitter. This transforms the palm oil story from a regional environmental issue into a core driver of global climate change. The palm tree plantation, therefore, functions as a carbon source, not a sink. It replaces a complex ancient system that actively cooled the planet with a simplified one that actively heats it. The climate impact is not limited to carbon. The large-scale conversion of forest to plantation dramatically alters the local microclimate. Forests create their own rainfall through transpiration. Their dense canopies regulate temperature and maintain humidity. When they are gone, areas can become hotter and drier, increasing drought risk and making the remaining forest fragments more susceptible to fire. This creates a terrifying feedback loop. Deforestation for palm drives climate change, which leads to more frequent and severe droughts and fires, which in turn destroy more forest, making way for more plantation. It is a cycle of self-reinforcing destruction. Furthermore, the loss of biodiversity is not just a tragic loss of life, it is a critical loss of resilience. Diverse ecosystems are better able to withstand shocks like disease, fire, and climate fluctuations. A monoculture plantation is incredibly vulnerable. A single pest or pathogen can sweep through thousands of identical trees. This vulnerability pushes the industry towards ever greater chemical use, and perversely, the search for new land when plantations fail, perpetuating the cycle of expansion. The international community's response, centered on concepts like zero deforestation commitments and carbon credit markets, is mired in complexity and controversy. While some major corporations have pledged to clean up their supply chains, monitoring and enforcement in remote regions are incredibly difficult. Carbon offset projects, where companies pay to protect forests to compensate for their emissions elsewhere, have been criticized for not providing permanent protection, displacing local communities, and in some cases, for simply not working. The promised saved forest was never under real threat. This third layer of deception is the most global and the most insidious. We are attempting to solve a crisis created by commodifying nature with mechanisms that further commodify it. We are putting a price on carbon and biodiversity, hoping the market will value a living forest more than a dead one. In a system built on infinite growth and externalized costs, the economic logic of conversion for palm oil or for the tourist beaches lined with coconut palms often still wins. The palm tree, in this final analysis, stands as a stark monument to our failure to value ecosystems for the irreplaceable, climate regulating, life-supporting functions they perform, choosing instead to value them only for the single product or single image we can extract. If this deep dive into the hidden world behind the palm tree has shaken your perspective, then this is the most important moment in this video. Understanding is the first step, but action is the only thing that creates change. Your power lies in your choices and your voice. First, become a conscious interrogator of your own consumption. Before you buy a processed snack, a cosmetic, or a cleaning product, glance at the ingredients list. If it contains palm oil, ask yourself, is this a necessity? Could I choose an alternative product or make my own? Support brands that are transparent about their supply chains and go beyond basic RSPO to certifications like Fair for Life, or those that use truly segregated, traceable supply models. When you book a vacation, research the resort. Do they have legitimate ecological certifications? Do they actively restore native coastal vegetation like mangroves and seagrasses? Or do they just have a manicured lawn of coconut palms? Your tourism dollars are a vote for the kind of world you want to see. Second, use your voice. Share this video. Talk about this paradox with friends and family. The power of the palm tree imagery relies on our collective, uncritical acceptance. Break that acceptance. Tag corporations on social media and ask them hard questions about their sourcing. Support NGOs on the front lines, like those working to protect rainforests and indigenous land rights. Finally, and most importantly, stay on this journey of understanding. This channel is dedicated to pulling back the curtain on the complex, interconnected systems that shape our world. We have similar deep dives on the hidden costs of fast fashion, the reality of recycling, and the future of food. If you want to be part of a community that values depth over distraction and truth over convenience, then hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and leave a comment below with the word palm. I want to hear your thoughts and what topic we should dissect next. The story of the palm tree teaches us that nothing is ever as simple as it seems. Let's continue to seek the complicated, inconvenient, and vital truths together. Your attention is the first and most crucial step towards a more authentic world. Don't just watch, and move on. Subscribe, act, and let's rebuild a reality that's richer than any single image of paradise.